Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. Alright, today we're going to take a quick look at this really neat book from Games Workshop, and that is the World of Warhammer Official Illustrated Guide to the Fantasy World. And this was put together by Richard Wulfric Galland. Now this is a really neat book. It's basically like an illustrated encyclopedia with one huge flaw. And that flaw is, as an illustrated guide, I would think that it would give more time spent to the illustrators, to the artists, to the people who created all of these amazing images that we're going to be seeing. Unfortunately, that is not true. Actually, the opposite of true. Is true. There is not a single mention of a single artist in this book. And that is a huge misstep on Games Workshop's part and on the part of the author of this book. So I think most of the art is done by the usual gang of idiots, as they would be called at Mad Magazine, but probably not here. No disrespect. But you would have art by, of course, John Blanche, Wayne England, Dave Gallagher, and Mark Gibbons. Maybe others. I am not sure. I don't know every artist who worked for Games Workshop at this time. I'm sure some people could look through this book and probably pick out every single artist at a drop of the hat, but I am not one of those people. But we're just going to take a quick look through the book. So the book was copyrighted in, I believe, 1996. And it says here, being an encyclopedia and an exploration of the diverse lands, races, and cultures of the known world, the old world, its magic, warriors, fantastic beasts, and strange creatures, and including maps, histories, and timelines, and an examination of the iconography, mystic symbols, and languages thereof. Now, I did not have this book when it was out, when it was new. I actually didn't even know it existed until a couple years ago when a buddy of mine on Facebook, Dennis, told me about it, and I immediately went to eBay to grab a copy because I knew it was something that I would like and something that would really, I think, strengthen your games of like Warhammer Quest or any kind of old world games, Advanced Hero Quest that you're going to be playing, just so you can learn more about the factions in the world, especially for those of us like me who maybe weren't completely into the old world fantasy setting as far as like the regular Warhammer battle games went, where you would get your faction tomes in those games, and you could read about your dwarves and your chaos guys and your elves and all of that. I never really played Warhammer Fantasy Battle. When I was in high school, we played 40K. So my knowledge of the lore in the Warhammer Old World basically comes from, Warhammer Quest, Advanced Hero Quest, and that kind of stuff. So this is a really good book for people like me who may not be as versed in the lore as others are. And it's also probably a really good book for people who are. So you have a forward introduction, welcome to the world of Warhammer. Then it goes through your races. You're going to have your Lizardmen, High Elves, Wood Elves, Dwarfs, the Empire, Bretonnia, the Realms of Chaos, Skaven, Chaos Dwarfs, Dark Elves, Undead, Orcs, and Goblins. And then you get here to an A to Z of races, timeline, great events that happen throughout the history of the old world, well-known heroes and villains, and then an index. So the forward, I'll just read a little bit of it. In the early 80s, fantasy gaming was a relative newcomer to the well-established hobby of historical wargaming. Published by a small fantasy miniatures company based in Nottinghamshire, England, Warhammer was the first game to specifically cater for the gamer who wished to enact large battles with tens or hundreds of models in a fantasy rather than historical setting. So I'm not sure. My history of wargaming is not up to snuff, so I'm not sure if that is 100% true or not. I know sometimes in the forwards of all of these great old like genre things, like with you have Lynn Carter writing about different kinds of sword and sorcery, and sometimes the people who are writing their forwards take a little bit of liberty to big up the thing they are writing about. So we'll have to take the author at his word on that. Then you get another introduction. And then we get just kind of a nice overview of the world of Warhammer. Many thousands of years ago, the Warhammer world was a peaceful realm. Yeah, that must have been a long time ago. Unspoiled by the spread of civilization or the clamor of war. I wonder imagine the world of Warhammer without war. What would that be like? The lands were not shaped as they are now, and the races that dwelt in them had yet to receive the gift of speech. Maybe it's better off if we didn't talk to each other. Then from a place beyond the stars came the Old Ones. These eldritch beings arrived in the Warhammer world in silver ships that crossed the endless sea of space by means of a mystical gateway, which they set above the North Pole. It's really interesting. Growing up, when I was reading Lovecraft, I don't think I really had the idea of just how influential Lovecraft and Clark Ashton Smith and all of those early writers of weird fiction, and especially that kind of cosmic horror. I didn't have the sense of just how influential they were. And as you get older and you start reading more and more things and learning more and more about things, it just seems like so many of the things that we love were influenced in some way by those early writers who wrote for Weird Tales and who wrote cosmic horror. I mean, even the World of Warhammer was inspired by cosmic horror. Then it goes through the Great Catastrophe. These are some of the big events. The Eternal Battle goes through just setting up the early days of the world. And there we get our nice old world map. It'll be interesting to see how similar this is when they bring back the old world sometime in the near future like they're supposed to do. And there is our awesome cover for Warhammer Quest. Still missing the dwarf. It would have been really cool if this was like an expanded one and you got to see the dwarf. But this kind of tells you what you're going to be getting in each section when they introduce the races. You're going to be getting a little history, something about their physical aspects, their home territory, getting together, which is a broad section detailing the social organization, traditions, and achievements of each race. In short, what gives the race its identity, how they think, how they talk, what they build, how they're organized, what they believe. And then you're going to be getting your battle plans, just how they fight. And of course, we start with the Lizardmen, the Lizardmen, children of the Old Ones, the ancient race here, and how they established, Listeria? They're in the sweltering heat of the Listerian jungle dwell an ancient cold-blooded people, the Cold Ones. They are the Lizardmen, inheritors of the Old Ones' great plan for the Warhammer world, and their existence may provide a clue to the world's history and its future. Some great art going on here. A little bit of the area where they live, their home territory, some of the runes that they use, their alphabet, what they build. Great John Blanche drawing there. And then we get into the High Elves, keepers of the balance. The mystical Isle of Ulthuan is home of one of the Warhammer world's most ancient civilizations. Using arcane science, the High Elves maintain the delicate balance between the magical energies that sustain their isle and the excess power that could destroy the entire world. I always liked their pointy hats. I always thought they were cool. And I really liked this pencil art when I was a kid, or not a kid, even through high school. When I was illustrating a lot, I always tried to emulate this pencil style that was but I was looking at it in the 40K manuals. I always love the big wings on the helmets and all of that kind of stuff. There's their home territory of Ulthuan out here, just like north of Listeria. Kind of have a South America up through Central America, Mexico, kind of like, and then into, looks like into the United States, looking the North America there. So I told my buddy Joshua, who has this book, and he recently got it, and his pages 41 to 42 and 45 to 46 are missing. So I told him I would slowly go through those pages so he could take a look at them and see what he's missing. So there's page 41 and 42. Really weird why that page is missing, because it's not like some super special page. I think the other page that you're missing, Josh, is a little cooler. Maybe not. So there's your High Elf runes. Their bolt thrower. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, so this is a great splash page here. So you might be missing that. A little bit about what they believe this High Elf mage. I always like, man, mages in Warhammer are always so cool because they were always depicted as like battle mages. They look like they could kick your butt with a sword or with magic. I always liked that. Kind of like how Gandalf was. You know, Gandalf was just a kind of a total badass all around. And then we have our Wood Elves, defenders of the forest. The arboreal realm of Athaloran is home of a race of elves, very different from the people of Ulthuan. Having rediscovered the traditions of their ancestors, the Wood Elves now live much closer to nature. Another great John Blanche. Here you have your Forest of Lauren there. These striped pants always cracked me up. There's your Wood Elf, kind of your typical Wood Elf that you would play in Warhammer Quest there. Some kind of like look like as a druid. There's your War Dancers. Now we move into our Dwarfs, the masters of iron and stone. The mountains of the old world are the domain of the Dwarfs, a race as hardy and unchanging as their rocky habitat. It was they who taught early man the secrets of metalcraft and weapon making, and the two races enjoy good relations to this day. I think, you know, you have that classic relationship, that kind of like that triangle, racial triangle between the dwarfs, the elves, and the humans. And it's always interesting in fantasy to have those three races playing off of each other. There's your runes, there's your troll slayer. Really cool, man. This book is just fantastic. I just wish that it would have given more credit to the artists and had some artist biographies and that kind of thing, just so we can learn a little bit about them in this illustrated guide. And then the Empire, these were always my least favorite. The empires of elves and dwarves may have waned, but the domain of man has yet to reach its zenith. Of all the human civilizations of the Warhammer world, the largest and most powerful is in the old world realm known simply as the Empire. I just never really got on with the humans. I just didn't like the way they looked. That period of like medieval dress just didn't do much for me. That's really cool though. I do appreciate their place in the world though, in the realm, and what they did for it. Bretonnia, the land of chivalry. Any servant of darkness with designs on the old world must first cross swords with the Knights of Bretonnia. For centuries, the Lady of the Lake's valiant warriors have fought against the forces of chaos and tyranny with unmatched courage. There's, you got your British Knights there. I'm sure they had a very special place in the heart of the lads at Games Workshop. There you have your Bretonnia. These guys were pretty cool. And now we get into the really fun stuff. Of course, everybody's favorite, the Realms of Chaos. To the far north of the Warhammer world is a place of unspeakable horror where twisted creatures lurk and darkness reigns supreme. This is the Realm of Chaos, the nemesis of nature, civilization, and sanity. So I think the Realms of Chaos are really probably the best things about the old world. The thing that really adds to its appeal. Elric, the Elric saga that we'll be looking at in the Sword and Sorcery saga that we're going to be starting soon, has some really great depictions of the Chaos Lords. Of course, they're different than the Warhammer ones. I'm not quite sure if the Warhammer guys were influenced by Elric, which way that went. Elric was a little earlier, so maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but the Chaos gods in Elric are always interesting, and of course they're always interesting in Warhammer as well. This is where you get into that just really great metal art. So many skulls and weapons and spikes and grim, dark art. Oh, that's fantastic right there. So is that. Really cool. Nurgle is the great lord of decay, the carrion crow, and the hungry earth. Nurgle, the lord of decay. Tzeentch, the changer of ways. Our Silver Tower connection there. Slaanesh, the prince of chaos. And then we move into the Skaven, the Ratmen. Always nice to have some Ratmen, some Beastmen here. The children of the Horned Rat. Beneath the ordered surface of the Warhammer world is the labyrinthine under-empire of the Skaven. These warped Ratmen prepare for the time of anarchy, when they can take their chaos to the world above and bring civilization crashing down. I always thought that the Skaven had the best chance to really take over the old world. Just all of their tunnels underground, you know, rats, they have sheer numbers and the ferocity to do it, and they just don't care. They don't give an F. They'll just ravage and destroy everything in their path. The Skaven had like probably the coolest designs, I think. Just how they would kind of incorporate this weird kind of like science fiction magic. Kind of a, not really, I guess kind of steampunky in a way. And the Chaos Dwarves, by far the one I miss the most. Like I do like Age of Sigmar. I don't, you know, I'm not like huge into it, but I like some of the stuff they've done. But I really wish they would bring out a modern equivalent of the Chaos Dwarfs, just because these guys were so crazy looking with their tall hats and everything, and their beards and their tusks, and yeah, just really interesting guys here. The power of chaos corrupts anything living under its shadow. Even the stalwart dwarfs, among the most resilient to the efforts of magic, have not entirely escaped its insidious touch. Beyond the world's edge, mountains live an offshoot of this proud race who have thrown themselves wholeheartedly into the service of evil. When I was playing the new Blood Bowl a couple years ago, I bought a throwback team of the Chaos Dwarves with their bull centaurs. That was a lot of fun. Then we have the Dark Elves, the black-hearted exiles. The Dark Elves were born in a time of treachery and bloodshed. Once they dwelt in the light of Ulthuan. Now they live in its shadow, driven to unspeakable acts of depravity by an ancient hatred. The Witch Elf, an Executioner, very cool. Those Executioners are awesome. Coming into the lands of the dead, I believe. Yep, the Undead, the Bane of Life. That is amazing. They need to make a game just like with this as the box cover. In Civilization's shadow lurks an ancient and evil intelligence that has not drawn a breath for millennia. When the winds of dark magic blow across the earth, the dead grow restless. Baneful spirits howl in the night, and legions of corpses rise from the cold bowels of the earth. The heralds of Nagash walk abroad, and their message is death. That is so metal. Love it. These guys are amazing. I love skeletons. Skeleton warriors are by far my favorite type of enemy, especially in video games. If I'm playing a fantasy game and there aren't skeleton warriors, I get really disappointed. I just love like the skeleton lords in Dark Souls 2. That is such a fantastic boss. Absolutely love it. And of course, they should make a game with that as the cover as well. The Undead. Yeah, Undead are always awesome. Orcs and Goblins, my least favorite of all of these factions and races. I just don't find them very interesting. The greenskins, while the eternal battle between civilization and chaos draws the Warhammer world's armies to one side or the other, one race finds the time to make war on everybody. I guess that's kind of cool. Orcs and Goblins do not go to war for political or religious reasons. They do it simply because they enjoy it. I guess maybe I'm just kind of burned out on Orcs and Goblins and Trolls and that kind of stuff. But the squids are pretty cool. And the Night Goblins are funny. I like the fanatics that throw themselves around with the giant chain balls. And then we get a nice little just World of Warhammer races A to Z. You can learn a little bit about that. Some nice black and white art. You get a nice timeline here, which each race going through its history, through all the way through the old world. The great events, so the Great Catastrophe, the War of the Beard, the Time of Woes, the Serpent and the Rat, the Great War against Chaos, and then some major heroes and villains there in alphabetical order. Yeah, and then you come to your index, and that is a full look through of the World of Warhammer Encyclopedia, the illustrated guide. Very cool book. Would have been just an absolutely perfect book if they had included some credits to the artists and maybe some biographical information. But if you're looking for something like this, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the lore, and maybe you don't know about it, maybe you're kind of like me, you came to Old World a little later, didn't play Warhammer Fantasy Battle, this is an indispensable tome, I think. One that belongs in anybody's collection. So, all right, guys, well, hope you enjoyed that, and take it easy. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.